Right, back to Bathsheba and David. We left it last time with um, David having gone for his walk on the roof, seen Bathsheba bathing. I trust you all had a look at the MASH, a thing that I sent you out last week from David Marks's memory, the MASH thing of seeing what's her name, Hot Lips Houlihan in the shower. It was a bit naughty. And David then sends for Bathsheba through messengers, and that's important. Let's get this let's get this text on the screen. There we go. There, have a look at verse 4. And David sent messengers, and he took her. Vayishlach David Malachim. We see this verb vayishlach, vatishlach, vayishlach. Can you see this verb? I think it's 12 times in this whole chapter. Is the verb shalach, to send. It's over here. Vayishlach David, vatishlach David. It's all done through messengers. And of course, what's a problem when you do things through messengers?
Chinese whispers.
Chinese whispers. Even if it's not Chinese whispers, Barbara,
yeah.
The word is out. Even if it's correctly out, it's out. If you're going to do not. Yeah.
What does it mean? Vayishkavim avehi mitkadeshet mitum ata.
She's been to the
mikvah. She was actually bathing in the mikvah in her place.
Yeah, no. She wasn't bathing in the mikvah in her place because the people didn't have mikvahot in their own houses. But it means that he wasn't wealthy. He was a soldier. He was a foot soldier, Uriah. That she wouldn't have had a mikvah in her house. But it means she'd been to the mikvah. We discussed this last time. I don't know if you. I don't think you were there. We discussed it last time. She'd been to the mikveh because there was a discussion whether Uriah is Jewish or not. He's called a Hittite. So if he's a Hittite, what's she doing going to the mikveh?
Yeah.
Right. But so the Chachamim say, no, he's called Uriah HaChittite because he lived amongst the Hittite. Like, I'm here. I'm known as Lieberman, the British guy, right? Right, because I came from Britain. I lived amongst the Brits. Doesn't mean I'm British and not Jewish, right? So they say that the Kadeshet mitumata, verse 4, and she was purified from her uncleanliness, means that she'd been to the mikveh, which makes the whole thing even worse, of course. I mean, it makes it better in one way that at least she wasn't a nida, but she was purified herself for her husband, and David took her. And then we had the whole discussion last week about Bathsheba, whether she was complicit, whether she was raped, whether she agreed, she didn't agree, whether she had to agree. Those of you who weren't present, excuse me, or have forgotten, have a look at last week's share on the recording, and you'll see all the stuff we spoke about last week. No, it wasn't last week, last time with Bathsheba. And we left it over at this point in verse 5. Vatahar Haisha, and the woman conceived, Vatishlach, and she sent a message to David. Vataged le David, and she told David, Vatoma, and she said, Hara Anochi, I am pregnant.
If she sent a message, sorry to interrupt you. If she sent a message, why is she doing the saying? Why doesn't the messenger do the saying?
She said. First of all, it could be that the messenger said it, then the messenger might be a woman, but Taged le David. So it could be the verse does not preclude the messenger telling David, but effectively she has told David, right? Even though she's done it. I think it's important, Vatishlach, because she could have just said Vataged le David, but the Tishlach is important because not only now is it known that David took Bathsheba, the word is also out, because once you involve messengers, the word is out. I mean, this is a massive scandal, right? David has effectively, well, not effectively, he has slept with a married woman. Not only that, it's the wife of one of his crack troops, and she's now pregnant by him.
How do we know it's by him?
Well, okay. That's a very good question. Right, who is going to answer Michael's question?
Well, her husband wasn't there.
He was on the front line.
Okay, but she might have been pregnant before he went.
Then she wouldn't have gone to the mikveh.
Correct. Very good, Jackie. She went to the mikveh, right? Which means that she's had a period, and therefore she can't have been pregnant. And he has not been back from the front line since she's been to the mikveh. There's only one person that's been with her since the mikveh, and that's David. So you can imagine. No. As far as we know, yes. As far as we know, yes, that is true. I cannot disagree with that statement.
Johnny, surely on verse 5, and the woman conceived. That's wrong, isn't it? The woman, because then she said, "I'm pregnant." But put my sugar.
She conceived, and then she said, "I'm pregnant." Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Because doesn't conceive mean having a baby?
No. Conceived means getting pregnant. Giving birth means having a baby. Conceived is conception. You know, like contraception against getting. Yeah, conceived means to get pregnant. So you imagine this is a massive scandal. So there's no way this messenger who what's her name, Bathsheba, told the news to go and tell David that I'm pregnant. There's no way that messenger is going to keep that to himself or herself. Impossible.
That's all the more reason she most probably told him directly, because she didn't want the messenger to be involved.
No, on the contrary, Michael. That is why this is such a fascinating chapter. And that is why it says Vatishlach. Because it's telling us, Dafka, she sent it via messenger. She wanted it to get out. She wanted it to get out. Otherwise, she would not have told the messenger. She would have said to the messenger, I need to tell the king something. Could you please arrange for me to have a private audience with the king? But she didn't. She sent a message, said, go tell the king I'm pregnant. Right? You can imagine. You can imagine, can't you, the scandal that's going on here. So, and the author of Tanakh here, by the use of this word vayishlach, do you remember when you were writing essays at school? You had to use synonyms all the time. You couldn't use the same verb all the time because it didn't look right, did it? You know, you had to use different expressions to show that you had a good use of language. This is the opposite here. It's Dafka using the same expression to draw your attention to it. That's a very common literary technique of Tanakh. It's called a leitmotif in biblical criticism. A leitmotif. It's the key word, right? It's the key word. The key word here in this whole passage is vayishlach or vatishlach. The root shalach, to send. She sends messengers to tell him she's pregnant, and the word gets out. Now, you are David, right? And you get this message, and you're told that Bathsheba is pregnant. What is your first thought?
Oh, hell.
OMG.
OMG. Yes, OMG. Absolutely. Now what am I going to do? I'm in real Taurus now. So you are now King David and you're in Taurus. You have done something which you must know was wrong, right? Not only that, you're in a right pickle now because she's pregnant. What are you going to do? Okay, don't read on. Even though you know the story, right? Pretend you don't know the story. Look at it with fresh eyes. What are you going to try and do?
Ask ChatGPT what you can do to get out of it.
Okay, ChatGPT was not available on this particular day. The internet was down.
But if you say that the whole message got out, then her husband would surely know, but at that particular point in time, he would have found out as well.
Well, he wouldn't have known at that time because
he was on the front line.
Currently at the front line.
But if it leaks out, it's going to leak out everywhere. So he would become aware
Well,
of it at some stage.
eventually he would become aware of it. That is true. That is true. Correct. He would become aware of it, and so would everybody else. Okay, so what would you do if you were King David? You've got to get yourself out of this sticky mess. Pardon the pun.
Well, we know what he did, so it's a bit of a
Make her disappear.
Okay, you could make her disappear. That's one way of doing it. You could make her disappear. That would be pretty awful, really, to kill a pregnant woman and, in fact, your own child. But yes, that is one thing he could have done. What else could he have done?
Again,
He killed the husband.
Johnny, Devan Michal says that the only words at all that we hear her saying about Sheva are those two words, I am pregnant.
Yes.
And she was saying basically, I'm scared, I'm in danger because they're going to think I'm a prostitute and I've got present who knows how. And she was afraid of her husband, obviously, as well. So adding into what you just said, I mean, David is in a turbulent state. He wasn't maybe thinking initially of marrying her. But
correct. He could easily have got rid of her. And we're going to come to another story. What does it remind you of, this whole story?
Judah.
Yes, Yehuda. We're going to come and look at it in big detail shortly. We're going to look at the comparison between David and Bathsheba and Yehuda and Tamar. Correct. We're going to look at that very shortly. But right now, if we can, with as fresh eyes as we can, Paul, what are his options? We know what he did, but what were his other options? One was to get rid of Bathsheba. That's true. He could have done, and he could have done it in the way Ivor has just implied by saying, "Oh, you're pregnant? That's terrible. You're the wife of one of my officers who's off at the front. How could you possibly do such a thing? You must be a prostitute. I'm the king. I'm going to exact justice on behalf of my soldier." And you're going to be put to death. He's got rid of his problem there. So that's one thing he could have done. What else could he have done?
He could bribe the soldier to accept the situation, and that the child, he accept him as his child, even though it wasn't his child.
All right. So you're on the right lines, I think. Yes, that's a possibility. He could have bribed him. He could have said to Uriah, "Look, this is what's happened. I'm in a bit of a position here. Can you help me out? And I'll make it worth your while.
I'll promote you.
I'll make it worth your while, etc." So he could have done that.
If he was infatuated with her, he could have asked her, would she get divorced?
Not going to help him, because the halacha is that a no'ef and a no'efet cannot marry. They are forbidden to one another. So in modern society that would work, Jackie, but not in halacha,
right?
Because an adulterer and adulteress cannot marry. So what he does do is a bit similar to what Michael has said, but it's more conniving. That would have been, coming clean, as it were. What he tries to do is to do a cover-up. Okay. Now we all remember, don't we, Watergate? Watergate was, for those of you who can't remember, Watergate was a situation where the Republican Party broke into the campaign offices of the Democratic Party in the Watergate building and tried to steal various secrets, electoral secrets, etc. Not the most nice thing to do, but, not a capital offence, right? Not a capital offence. No doubt things like that have been done in the past by other people. What was Nixon's problem?
He got caught.
He lied. Well, he got caught. That was his first problem. Yeah. He lied.
There were tapes of the conversations. That was his problem.
Yeah. His problem was he got caught and he tried to cover up, and he was found out. So what was it that made him lose the presidency, that made him have to resign? It was the cover-up. It wasn't the actual crime of the Watergate. First of all, he personally didn't do it, and even if he ordered it, he probably would have survived had he not tried to cover it up There will be no whitewash in the White House, those famous words. And of course, as Paul said, there were tapes, and he was caught covering up. And what did for him, the reason in the end that he had to resign, despite having, trying to get out of it, was the fact that he did a cover up. And what David is trying here is a cover up. And in some ways, I'm not minimizing what he did with Bathsheba, but in some ways, this is the worst part of it all for him, is this cover up. And the opposite of the cover up, which comes in the next chapter, bit of a spoiler, where he admits his sin, is what gets him out of the trouble in a way. But at this point in the story, he's attempting a cover up. So how is he going to cover this up? Well, he's got to somehow engineer that the pregnancy either disappears, well, we said that's an option, or the pregnancy is attributed to somebody else. So who could it be attributed to? Well, it could be attributed to any Tom, Dick, or Harry, in which case she'd be a prostitute, and she's not gonna go for that, is she? She's going to say, well, actually, it was King David, and I can prove it to you because my messenger took me there, and he sent me this messenger. Go and ask that messenger who brought me there. He'll be sure. So he couldn't do that. So what else is he going to try and do? He's going to try and engineer it so that the pregnancy is attributed to her husband, to Uriah. But he's got a problem because Uriah is where?
In the front line.
In the front line. So he's got to do what?
Bring him back.
Bring him back. Okay, verse 6, folk. It's still on the screen for you, I think. Yes? You still got it on the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, verse 6. Vayishlach David el Yoav. And David sent a message to Yoav. Who was Yoav?
Commander-in-Chief.
Commander-in-Chief. Chief of Staff. Yeah, Commander-in-Chief probably was David. Yoav was Chief of Staff.
Oh, Chief of Staff, okay.
Yeah. Shlach Elai et Uriah hachiti. Send me Uriah. Doesn't say why at this stage. Send me Uriah. So they've got to get him back from the front. So he sends a message, send Uriah back from the front. Vayishlach, another Vayishlach. Yoav et Uriah el David. And Yoav did as he's told. Yoav doesn't know anything about anything at this stage. He sends Yoav back to David. Now, verse 7, fascinating verse. Vayavo Uriah elav. And Uriah came to the king. Now, Uriah is a soldier. We don't know his rank, but we know he's not chief of staff. We also know that he was one of the crack troops because his house was very close to David's, and that's how they did it there. The crack troops were there close to David's house. But it's a bit odd. Uriah must be thinking, what?
Am I in trouble?
Am I in trouble here? Why has the king called for me? What have I done wrong? Right? So he comes into, and Vayishal David Lishlom Yoav. And David asks him, how's Yoav? So you're Uriah. You've no idea why you've been called to the king. And the first question the king asks you is, how's Yoav doing? Remember, Yoav's his general. What are you going to say, Michael?
Is Yoav doing something he ought to be doing? Is he not such a good general?
You're being asked. It seems to me you're being asked by the king to sort of
spill the beans,
to snitch on the chief of staff. I'm not sure I'd be keen to answer that question. You're a bit damned if you do and damned if you don't, aren't you? I mean, let's assume that he doesn't have any dirt on Yoav. He must be wondering, why have I been asked this question? Okay, the next question he asks him, V'lishlom ha'am. And how are the people doing? Now what you're thinking?
If you're the king, he should know.
What do you think? You're thinking, this is very strange. Why is he asking me these questions?
Asking me, yeah.
Yeah. And then he asks another strange question. V'lishlom ha'milchama. How's the war going? You must be thinking at this stage, if you're Uriah, why is he not asking Joab these questions? What's it got to do with me? I'm just a soldier. He might be thinking he's going to get promoted at this stage because David's asking him interesting questions, pleasant questions, nice questions. He's not being aggressive towards him.
And you're saying he hasn't seen his wife at this stage? He won't have seen his wife, despite the fact that she's round the corner.
No, he hasn't. He went straight to the king. You'll see, Michael. I'm so happy that you haven't read on. Really, I mean that, because you're seeing it through completely fresh eyes. I think everybody else here has either knows the story or has read on. So it's really good, Michael, that you haven't. And I think that's fabulous, because it means that we can get an insight without that prior knowledge. So you think that's a bit surprising, but remember, he was sent for from the king. You know, he's gone straight to the king, and we'll see. I can prove it to you as we go along. Don't read on. So he asks these three questions in verse 7. What is Uriah's answer? I'll save you the bother. Don't look. There isn't one. Right? He doesn't answer. Why doesn't he answer? Or why doesn't Tanakh record his answer, at least? Let's put it that way.
Loyalty to his boss, Joab.
You'll see that is true. That is true. So he may not have answered at all, because he was like, why are you asking me these questions? I don't know. You know, don't ask me. I'm just a soldier. But actually,
Johnny,
yes, Jackie.
If we'd have come back into the town, though, surely he would have heard the rumours about his wife.
Well, he hasn't, or maybe he has. I don't know. But at this stage, we're assuming he hasn't. He's gone straight to the king. Let's assume for the moment he hasn't yet heard the rumors. So the reason that Tanakh doesn't record his answer is either because he didn't have an answer, because he thought, well, I don't really know why he's asking me these questions. I don't know what I'm meant to say. But actually, these questions were irrelevant. They were just David making pleasant conversation in order to engage Uriah, in order to try and engineer his going back to his wife, so that he can then say that the baby is Uriah's and not his. So these questions, David wasn't interested in the answers to these questions. So either Uriah didn't give him an answer, or the answer was irrelevant because David wasn't interested. This is not what David wanted to know. He wanted to know these questions. He could have asked Joab that, and he didn't need to schlep somebody back from the front. He could have had a messenger. He's good at sending messages. We know that. So these questions were irrelevant. They were just an engagement of Uriah, put Uriah at his ease, as it were. Don't worry, Uriah, there's nothing wrong. I just wanted to know how you are. How's Joab? How's the war going? You know, the only thing he hasn't asked him is, how's your wife? Right? Now, the next thing, have a look at the next verse. And Vayomer David leUriah. David says to Uriah, note, by the way, in all of this thing, and particularly here it's relevant, how is David referred to?
Just David.
Just David, and not
King.
David.
Why?
Because he's being naughty.
He's not behaving like a king. Not behaving like a king should. Absolutely. I remember, this really got my goat. Ravi Doe wrote something in one of the Shabbat pamphlets about women wearing trousers. And his view was that, assuming that the trousers were snu'ah, were modest and were not immodest, there was nothing wrong with women wearing trousers per se, because trousers are no longer just a beged ish, a man's garment. In fact, more women now wear trousers than wear skirts. And of course, there are specific women's trousers. You wouldn't find men generally speaking anyway, wearing women's trousers. Women's trousers are a woman's garment. That was his argument. And it was a very cogent argument, very well thought through, and very well put, as he always did. And he got the biggest flack out from various right-wing sources. And the next week in the same magazine, there was an article by some other rabbi who said, who was very disparaging about him and said, Hechter, what does he know? Right? What does he know? He's undoing 2,000 years of Masorah, of tradition, Pechter, right? Didn't even call him Rav Pechter, right? Removed his title from him, as if to say, you're not worthy of the title of rabbi. It was a horrible, horrible article and really wound me up, I can tell you. I wish I could remember who wrote it because I'd tell you, but I can't, so I can't. So this is the same thing. David here is referred to as plain David, right? Not Hamelech David or David Hamelech. He's not behaving in a kingly fashion. So Vayomer David Uriah. David says to Uriah, we're in verse 8, Raid, go down lebeitecha, go down to your house, urachatz raglecha, and wash your feet. Okay, very good. So he says, go home, take it easy, have a few days off. He doesn't say go home and sleep with your wife, but it's pretty short. It's pretty, it's pretty clear that that's what he wants him to do. And it's probably...
Steiner says it's a euphemism.
What? Go and wash your feet?
No, go home.
Go home, right. Go down to your house, yeah. Oh, by the way...
Sorry, Rabbi Saltan, sorry.
Yeah.
It's giving him leave. Every soldier is entitled to leave, and he's giving him leave.
Yeah, he's giving him leave
with ulterior motives. Yeah, as you said.
No, but by the way, Rav Steinsaltz is not just making that up, because he knows the story. When it says "raid leveitecha," go down to your house. There is a well-known connection, a well-known euphemism, if you like, for wife is bayit, ish ubeito. Ish, it's mentioned actually to do with Chanukah. There's a machloket as to whether a married woman needs to light her own Chanukiah. And the argument is that the ish ubeito, a man does it for his wife, for his household. Beito means his wife. So that's where Rav Steinsaltz has taken that from. Raid lebeitcha, go down to your house, go down to your wife. But he's not, David is not quite so explicit. In any event, what he expects to happen is that Uriah is going to go down to his house. He knows that Bathsheba has been to the mikveh, right? And we know that as well because it's been told to us. I've pointed it out in earlier on. It's in verse 4. So when a man comes back from the front and his wife has been to the mikveh, it's inevitable that there will be marital relations, and that's what David wants to happen. He's trying to cover up this pregnancy from himself by getting Uriah to have marital relations with his wife. His wife is then pregnant, and nobody will suspect a thing, except that the word is already out. But that's David's thought process here. You can see what he's trying to do. The only thing is that Uriah is either, well, not either, because there are a few options. Uriah is one of the following: either not very keen on his wife, right? Or he's heard the rumors and he's not playing ball, or he's incredibly loyal to his soldier, to his boss Yoav, and his soldiers. Because let's have a look what happens. So we've not finished verse 8 yet. Vayetze Uriah mi beit hamelech, and he goes out of the king's house. Now it's called the king's house here, not Hamelech David. And that's why is he called the king's house? To contrast the fact that earlier in the same pasuk, he was just plain David, because he was behaving like plain David and not like a melech. So Uriah goes out of the king's house, Vatetze acharav mas'at hamelech. Mas'at hamelech. Can't speak today. And there followed after him the king's food. What's all that about? I've remembered now what the other reference that I'd lost is, and I'm going to get it up again now while you're thinking about that question. What is that all about, please? The king's food. The king sends a package of food with him
because he hasn't eaten properly. He's been on the front line.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Maybe he provides him with drinks so as to make him not so aware of what's going on.
Wow, Michael, you're on fire. Okay, that comes later. That comes later. Hold it. Let me take you to the screen. And we have this same expression, although in the plural, in yesterday's parsha. Okay, yesterday's parsha, Miketz. Remember the story, yesterday's parsha? I'm sure you do. Yosef engineers Binyamin to come down to him, right? He says, "You spies, I don't believe you're not spies unless you bring down your brother." The brother comes down, Binyamin. He sits them all down. He sits them all down in their birth order, and they can't figure out how they know it. And then look at this, verse 33. Vayeshvu lefanav habachor kivchoroto. He sat them all down in their according to their age, Vatzir Ketzirato, and the youngest according to his youth. Vayitmohu hanashim ishareyehu. And the men looked at each other in astonishment. They couldn't understand it. And then what happened? Vayisam masaot meyet panav. He brought them this masaot, this gift of food, right? Vaterev masaet Binyamin mimasot kulam chamesh yadot. And he gave Binyamin 5 times more than anybody else. He was testing them to see if they would still be jealous. They were jealous of Joseph. He's testing them to see if they were jealous of Binyamin. But what I wanted to point out to you is this word here, Vayisam Masaot, same word as here in our verse 8, Vaytetzei acharav Masaat HaMelech. Remember, Yosef was effectively the king. It was a thing for the king to give food. I suppose the equivalent, I'm tempted to say lahavdil, is with the Rebbe, right? You go to a Rebbe's tish, yeah, and you get the shirayim from the Rebbe, right? You get the food that the Rebbe, a piece of herring that the Rebbe throws down the table. Everybody fights over it because it's come from the Rebbe. Food that's come from the king has got great value. It's the king saying that he's favoring this person. So again, what's he doing to Uriah by sending him away with food?
Bribery.
He's buttering him up. Yeah, he's telling him, oh, everything's fine. Go down to your house and, do what you've got to do, kind of thing. And here's some food. It's all wonderful, all hunky.
It's like the mafia kissing somebody before he executes him.
Maybe that is the case. Yes, I never thought of that. He's definitely softening him up for a blow, that's for sure. Although, having said that, if Uriah would have played ball and gone home to his wife, he wouldn't have ended up where he ended up. I don't want to spoil the story for Michael because he hasn't read on yet. Okay, so he goes down, right? He goes down with this food from the king. And he must be scratching his head and thinking, this is a bit strange, this. What's going on? The king calls me back from the thing. He asks me all these funny questions. And then he sends me off with a present and says, go home and put your feet up. Strange. Okay. But he didn't do that, did he? Let's have a look what he did. Vayishkav Uriah petach beit hamelech. Et kol avdei adonav. He lay down. Uriah lay down. Says here he slept. Not what the word says. It means he lay down. He lay down at the entrance of the king's house. Et kol avdei Adonav, with all the servants of his master. Velo yared. el beito, and he did not go down to his house.
So Michael was right. He was drunk.
He wasn't yet drunk. No, he wasn't yet drunk. He goes out and he scratches his head and he's on his way home and he gets to the entrance of the king's house. And who's there?
The soldiers.
All the other servants of the house. And what did they do?
Told him what was going on.
Told him what was going on. Oi, Uriah, you're being set up. The king's had his evil way with your wife. You're being set up, mate. Right? The word is out now. And that's all to do with this vatishlach, with the messengers. It's out. It's the Chinese whispers. Even if the Chinese whispers are true, and worse if they're true, actually, the word's out. And he did not go down to his house. Now, that was a bit of a brave thing to do, because effectively, what has he done now?
Disobeyed the king.
Disobeyed the king. Disobeyed the king. That's a
Treason.
problem. Disobeyed the king. What happens when you disobey the king, Michael?
Off with your head.
Off with your head. Right. Now, look at this word, vayishkav. Vayishkav. What does that mean? What does it literally mean?
He lay down.
Lay down.
He lay down. What does Tanakh use that expression to mean?
He had sex.
Correct. It means he had marital relations. What does...
marital relations.
Yeah. We don't use that three-letter word, Philip. We're very proper here. What did the wife of Potiphar say to Yosef?
Come lie with me.
Come lie with me.
Tishkavi lie with me. Right? There is a reason. There is a reason that Tanakh has used this expression here. It's telling us not that he lay down and had sex with the servants of his Lord. That's not what it's telling you. What it's telling you is he slept there and did not go down to have sex with his wife. Right? Velo yarad el beito. And I'm sure that Rav Steinsaltz would say again, that's another euphemism. He doesn't need to say it because he's already said it. Bayit is a euphemism for the wives. He did not go down to his wife. Now then, Vayagidu le David lemor. It was told to David as follows. Lo yarad Uriah el beito. Somebody tells David, Uriah has not gone back down to his wife. Now, why wouldn't anybody do that? Right? It's no big deal. David's called back a soldier. He's given him some extra leave because he's been a good boy or whatever. He's sending him off for a few days. And the soldier doesn't go back to his wife. So what? This Vayagidu le David means what? That this person that told him knows what's going on.
He knows the game's up.
Everybody knows. The whole thing's a laughing stock. David is told Uriah did not go down to his house. So now he's a bit stuck on it because his plan has not worked. David's plan of getting Uriah to go to his wife and to effectively impregnate her or seemingly impregnate her so that he can claim that the pregnancy is Uriah's and not his, David's, has failed because Uriah presumably has been told by the servants and he's not buying it. Now, listen to what happens next. So, Vayigidu le David lemor lo yarad Uriah el beito. Uriah did not go down to his house. Vayomer David el Uriah. So he calls him back again and he says to him, "Oh, halo miderech ataba. Have you not come from a long journey? Madua lo yaradata el beitecha. Why didn't you go down to your house?" And it depends how what the intonation is. If you're the king and you want him to do it, you could actually be, you could have added, "And I told you to go down to your house." That's a command. Go to your house. But he didn't. He says, "Why didn't you go down?" Now look at Uriah's answer. Now, I want you to look at Uriah's answer. We'll go through the pasuk number 11 in a minute. I want you to look at it carefully, and I want you to tell me what Uriah is thinking at this stage. Vayoma Uriah el David, and Uriah says to David, Ha'aron, the ark, V'Yisrael, and the people of Israel, V'Yehuda, and the people of Judah, Yoshvim basukot, they are dwelling in flimsy places, in the field. Va'adoni Yoav, and my master Yoav, Va'avdei Adoni, and the servants of my master, Al Pnei Hasadeh Chonim, are encamped in the open field. Va'ani avo el beiti, and I should go down to my house, le'echol, to eat, v'lishtot, and to drink, v'lishkav im ishti, lishkav, same word, and to lie with my wife, chayecha, by your life, v'chay nafshecha, and by the life of your soul, im eseh. Not what it says.
Oh, it says my soul in the translation.
It does. It's wrong.
Actually, he's Johnny. He's disobeying.
Wait. He swears by the king's life, im eseh davar hazeh, if I would do such a thing. Now, let's just analyze this pasuk very carefully. What is Uriah saying before he gets to the end of the pasuk? What is he saying here? Michael, what is he saying?
I know exactly what you're getting up to, and I'm not going to play ball.
Yeah,
that is the bottom. Wait, Philip, that is the bottom line. But I want to analyze it almost word by word. Ha'aron v'Yisrael v'Yehuda yoshvim b'Sukkot. The Aaron and all the people are living in crappy little houses there. And Vadoni Yoav, and my master Yoav, and his servants are camping in the open. What does that tell you? What is he saying?
He's showing loyalty to Yoav.
He's showing loyalty to Yoav, and what does he call Yoav, Barbara?
Adoni.
And is that right? Who is his master?
David.
Melech is his master. What's he saying?
No, he's going beyond. He's going beyond Yoav. He's showing loyalty
David
and nobility to his whole people.
David isn't his master. Yoav is his master.
Correct. Philip is right. He's using that word Adoni Yoav to say, Yoav is my master, not you.
Yeah.
And what else is he saying? What else is he saying? He's saying, I can't possibly go and stay in my house while my troops and my brothers in arms are out in the field. What's he saying to David?
What are you doing sitting at home? And when
what are you doing sitting at home, valging in a room on the roof, right? And looking at women on the roof. What are you doing here? You should be over there with the troops. That's what he's saying to David. It's the biggest chutzpah out. And this is important, and we'll come to it probably not this week, maybe next week or next time. This is important. Uriah is being very disrespectful to David. Now, he's got good reason to. Let's face it.
He's being truthful.
But he's being truthful, and he's got good reason to be negative towards David. But he's saying to David, you should be out there with your troops, not sitting around here having a schloff in the afternoon and then getting up and having a little wander, right? And because of that and everything else, Adoni Yoav, I am loyal to Adoni Yoav. I'm loyal to my master, Yoav. Yoav is my master, in brackets, and not you, David, right? And then what does he do? He swears by the king's life. I don't know why the translation here is the life of my soul, because it doesn't say that. V'chei nafshech, it says nafshecha. Anybody got an Art Scroll translation in front of them?
Safaria says your.
What says?
Safaria says your life.
Says for your life. Steinsaltz?
No, your life.
Your life. I'm sure that Art Scroll will say your life. I don't know why it says my life. It's completely wrong. Im eseta davar hazeh. He swears by the king's life. Who does such a thing in front of the king? You say, I will not do what you've asked me to do, O king. And I swear by your life that I won't do it. That is pretty brave. Foolhardy, you might even say. Especially knowing David's temperament, which is
Hot-headed.
hot-headed. He's a gingy, remember? Wow, verse 11 is massive. It really is. It's incredible, this verse. If you just read the verse and don't think about it, okay, you know, but there's real drama here going on. So David now is stuck, isn't it? Because he's now made it very, very clear that Uriah is not going to do. Uriah has made it very, very clear that Uriah is not going to do what David wants him to do. So now, Michael, what would you do next? Don't read on. What would you do next?
You've got to get rid of him then, don't you?
Well, you've got one more option. One more option before you have to get rid of him. You want one more try. How are you going to? How does Tanakh often get people to do things that they don't necessarily want to do? And you mentioned it earlier on.
Get them drunk.
Get them drunk. Yes. Give me some examples, Barbara, of Tanakh.
Shimshon, Devorah, and Sisera.
Not Devorah,
Yael and Sisera.
Noah with his daughters.
Noah, yes, Noah.
Boaz. Wait till he's drunk.
Boaz, yes, another good one. What about the Hanukkah story? Since we're still in Hanukkah, Yehudit. She used milk and cheese, but you know, same idea. Get them, you know, in not fully in possession of their senses. That's what you've got to do. Okay,
Johnny.
So that's what yes.
If Uriah, if he's being so rude to David already, why doesn't he follow it up by saying, and by the way, you slept with my wife and got her pregnant? Why doesn't he say it?
He's not that brazen. He's not that bold. He's trying to show himself as being loyal, trying to save his skin. That would definitely be a recipe for suicide if he said that. So, verse 12, Vayomer David and Uriah. So David tries again. Shev bazeh, worry, stay here. Gam hayom, stay here today. Umachar, stay here another couple of days. Eshlachacha, umachar eshlachacha, and tomorrow I'll send you off. Very good. Vayeshiv Uriah b'Yerushalayim b'yom ha'u umimacharat. And Uriah stayed in Yerushalayim. Still not gone to his wife. Why? Well, he's sworn by the king's life he's not going to do it, so there's no way he's going to do it, at least knowingly. Verse 13. Vayikra lo David. And David called him. Oi, Uriah. Vayochal lefanav. And he ate before him. Vayesht. And he drank. Vayishakrehu. What word can you see in the middle of that?
Shika.
Shika. He got him shika. He got him drunk. He made him drunk. Vayetse ba'erev. And he went out in the evening, lishkav, to lie down, the same word, but mishkavo, again that word, im avdei adonav, with the servants of his master. But el beito lo yarad, he still didn't go down. Right? David had tried to get him that drunk that he would forget his promise. He doesn't even need to actually have sex with his wife. He just needs to go home, because then it can be assumed that he did. No matter if he's too drunk to do what he needed to do. As soon as he walks through that door, David's off the hook. But he doesn't do it. He's not that drunk that he forgets his promise, and he doesn't do it, and he lies down with the servants at the king's the door of the king's palace, and he does not go down to the king. So now, Michael, let's summarize what David has done. He's called Yoav. He's sent to Yoav, send me back Uriah. Uriah comes. He tries to butter him up. He asks him ridiculous questions, sends him off home with a nice package of food. Uriah gets to the door. He's told the rumors and says, I'm not having it. He doesn't go down. It's told to the king that he hasn't gone down and that his cover-up hasn't worked. The king tries again, brings him to the palace, gets him drunk, sends him off, and he still doesn't do. What's his next option, Michael?
Before you get to that, of course, Bathsheba was not even mentioned anywhere in any of this.
No, absolutely not. Why not? 1 second, Philip, will come to you in a minute.
She's a woman in that day. She's a woman, so it's presumably it didn't count in those days.
Probably, yeah. But Bathsheba's already done the deed by sending message that she's pregnant and not, keeping it to herself. She's deliberately done that. She's deliberately done it. I don't think there's any question. Not in my mind. There's not any question. Anyway, she deliberately did it. Yes, Philip.
You could tell that Uriah knew exactly what David wanted. He was setting him up. He knew it, and that's why he didn't go back to his house, and then he actually avoided having any contact with his wife because of that.
Correct. It's when you look at it slowly and clearly, the whole thing becomes very transparent. And what we see in David here is really quite interesting, because when somebody's in a hole, to dig themselves out of the hole, they do increasingly desperate things, don't they? And that's a very
maybe he didn't want to kill Uriah. He wanted to keep him alive. And this was the last, but he tried everything else not to have to kill him, and now it got to the stage where I've done everything I can to stop him being killed. Now I'm going to have him murdered, killed, or whatever else.
Isn't he a wonderful fellow? He's tried so hard not to have Uriah killed. I mean, I think that's rather kind. I think that you could say that he's a desperate man trying to cover up a despicable act.
He's a bit like Putin. Putin does that.
I have no idea what Putin does.
He tops his rivals, but he tries not to initially.
Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, you can see that David is increasingly desperate in the way he behaves. First of all, he tries to be nice to Uriah and to get him to do what he needs him to do. Then he gets him drunk. And then at the end of the day, as Michael says, what can I do? I'll have to kill him, right? I'll have to kill him. Right. And so what we see here, we're out of time. What we see here is, and we'll just stop here at verse 14. Michael, I really, really don't want you to read on. OK,
I don't normally read on anywhere. I'd rather not.
Yeah, because it's fascinating when we have somebody who doesn't know the story and we can see it.
Well, everybody knows it in outline, doesn't know the detail. I think that's
it's important. I think it's great that you don't know the detail. But let's just do verse 14. It came to pass, Vayihi baboker, and it was in the morning. Why? What's so relevant about the morning?
Light.
And
he wasn't so drunk.
And where did he goes out of his house, David, and what does he find?
He sees Uriah there.
He sees Uriah. He finds that his ruse hasn't worked. So what does he do? Vayichtov David Sefer El Yoav. He writes a letter. Says a sefer, meaning we translate that as a book, but it means a letter. Vayishlach, the irony of it. V'yad Uriah. I mean, he sends this letter with Uriah. Now, Uriah is such a good fellow.
Didn't open it.
Well, let's see. Did he or did he not open it? We will have to wait and see. You will have to wait 3 weeks to find out whether he opened it or not. So we will leave it there. We will leave it there on a cliffhanger. David has written a letter. We don't know what's in the letter. We've got an idea what's in the letter, but we don't know exactly what's in the letter. All we know is that David has written a letter and handed it to Uriah and said, give this to Yoav. Off you go. Wow. What a story this is. And what's remarkable, and we'll just finish on this, what's remarkable is that this is David HaMelech, the king par excellence of the Jewish people. It's not the kind of story that you would write if you were making up the king of Israel. It does not shed him in a very, very positive light. However, we will continue with the story. Be'ezrat Hashem, when I return from my travels, I think the next shiur will be Be'ezrat Hashem. The next Gemara, the next Tanakh shiur will Be'ezrat Hashem be on Sunday, the 11th of January. Sunday, the 11th of January, which is 3 weeks from now. 3 weeks from now. Okay.
Got a doctor's appointment that day.
Sorry, I can't help you with that.
To be with
And
you.
when you starting the